let's move on now to the third main topic today. And the third main topic today gets submitted to us from Damon Cladwell, who writes, I was reading through the various news sites today when I came across this story about Infinity War, where the writer said they actually wrote and shot scenes with Bruce and Black Widow, but that they didn't make the cut of the movie. I always felt like that relationship didn't get the attention or resolution that it deserved. Do you think they should have left that scene in there? I do. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Damon. And you know what? As marvelous and fun and everything as Infinity War is, two things to keep in mind about my view of it. Number one, I did feel like it was bursting at the seams a little bit. I felt like they tried to stuff a little bit too much. It still worked. But I felt like it was just on the verge. You know that one great scene in that Monty Python movie where they got that huge guy in the restaurant and it's like, oh, sir, would you just like one more mint? No, I'm stuffed. And oh, just one little mint. And he eats one mint and his body explodes, right? That's what I kind of felt like with Infinity War. Like, it didn't explode, but it was just on the verge of exploding. But one of the small little elements I loved in the MCU comes out of Age of Ultron, and that was the development of a romantic interest relationship between Nat and Bruce, between Hulk and Black Widow. I thought it was beautiful the way they were doing it. And then it gets resolved with one line in Infinity War, hey, Bruce, and that's it. They never come back to it, other than Sam saying, that's awkward. That's it. And then that's all it was. This huge, beautiful thing they set up in Age of Ultron that became a really important story thread, Rob, throughout that film, with her connection to Hulk and the way she's all talking down, hey, big fella, the sun's getting real, like all that kind of stuff, because of the emotional connection they have. I always did kind of feel like that was a missing element out of the movie. So what's this thing they're talking about? What do you mean? They shot a scene? Well, here's what the writers of the film, of the Avengers films, had to say. They said this: we certainly tried to address the Hulk and Nat relationship. In Infinity War, we have scenes. We wrote them and we shot them, of them sort of hashing that out. You've been gone, I've moved on, that kind of stuff. It became very clear that if a scene was not on the A plot, it could not survive Infinity War. That thing has to be on rails just to get to the finish line. You couldn't wrap up those loose threads just because you wanted to. So, Rob, what it sounds like to me here is that, yeah, they knew this is a big, important thing. We need to address it. They wrote it, they shot it. But it seems to me like they also got that sense, that the Russo brothers and the writers got the sense of, this movie is really packed. We have so much going on in it. There's so many characters and so many things going on that I like the way they put it. If there are things that we'd like to do, but it's not a part of the A plot, as they said, it's got to be sacrificed. And I felt that scene missing. I felt it missing. But at the end of the day, I actually got to say I agree with their decision to cut it out. When you're making movies, the editing process is the hardest thing to do, because sometimes you've got to edit out sometimes fantastic stuff for the sake and the overall good of the movie. And while I would have loved to have seen those scenes, I think it would have been an important scene, all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, I got to agree with their decision to cut it out of the film. How do you feel about it, Rob?
Well, you know, I remember having these arguments when Infinity War first came out, and we were talking about how I was like, clearly Captain America and Nat have something going on, and they people were like, oh, that's not true, and I'm like, no, there's a shot where they conveyed enough to me. It's a two shot of them when they're confronting or talking to Bruce, and it's to hear this. The fact that she said, I've moved on, that's what the writers themselves said, proves that I was right about what I thought.
That's like saying, oh, look, there's a feather falling from the ground. That means China is drinking a lot of tea.
No, it's not. I mean, they've been working together. They moved on. That's how human beings work.
Dude, you told me yourself. I remember after you had watched we didn't watch it together, but you had watched the director's cut, and I'd watched the director's cut after we finally saw it. And you yourself said, yeah, I guess they weren't in a relationship. But now you've gone back.
Now I'm convinced.
Now you've gone back to that.
Hearing them say, yeah, I always felt that way, because that's how people work. I mean, and you know, seeing the way that they had their relationship when Cap was talking to Nat after the 5-year snap, there's a lot of that. And I think they played it that they were two soldiers that needed one another because of what they went through, and Bruce was not there for her, and she turned to Cap, like people do.
I don't buy that at all. To me, it's more likely to say that Bucky and Steve had a romantic relationship. I mean, there is nothing in these movies, either Infinity War or in Endgame, that ever suggests that they had anything but a tight friendship.
I'm not saying that they were romantic like the love story to end the ages, but I'm saying that, you know, when people go through what they're going through, especially soldiers in times of war or stress, that kind of thing happens. People hook up. They look for comfort in one another, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're these are mature, these are nuanced people. And they're hardened warriors, and they understand what can happen. And I'm not saying that, you know, the fans are we're so immature about our visions of how people need to get together and have romances. And you know what? Joss Whedon did a great job in Age of Ultron setting that up.
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
did a great job. But you know what? Hulk left. He lit off. He went out into space. He had his adventures. He left Nat behind. Nat's like, you know what? Screw you, dude. I'm moving on. We were there for each other at the time. Now things are different, and I think that's what happened between them. I like that. In my mind, her and Cap, you know, they've kept the world together 5 years during the decimation, and you know, they look for each other for comfort when they need to, and that's okay.
Here's what you've just done. You've just convinced me that would, if they had chosen to do a Nat and Cap relationship at some point, you just convinced me that it would have made sense, that if they had decided to do that. But I'm still at a place that there's nothing in the movie that actually suggests that happened. Like, you make a good case that if they did it, I would say that makes perfect sense because of what you just said. I think you laid out a great case for that. But I still don't think there's anything in there to suggest that it did happen.
Look, I think that was something that they didn't deal with. And if it's in the movie, it's barely touched upon. But I felt it.
You felt it.
I felt it.
In your jellies.
I felt it because I think that look, like they said, we wrote it, we shot it, and the writers themselves said, you left, I've moved on.
But that doesn't mean she moved on to another relationship. It just means she got past what they were.
I don't know. I mean, I thought one of my favorite scenes in Endgame was the scene between Nat and Cap when they talk, when she's behind the desk and he comes in, and I came to see a friend. And again,
it was nothing but friendship. I didn't see anything romantic there at all.
They were buddies.
Good buddies.
F buddies.
Well, maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe you're right. What do you guys think about that?
Warriors all.
First of all, what do you guys think about, should they have left that scene in Infinity War? It was a very stuffed movie, but do you think that maybe it would have been justified to leave that in there anywhere? And then I'm also really curious to think of, where do you come down on this with, do you think Cap and Black Widow had a relationship at some point? I certainly think it would make sense because of everything Rob said, but I don't think it actually did. Maybe you do. Jump down to the comment section.
By the way, can I just say that I do think they should have left that scene in, because it was a lingering plot thread from a previous movie. It was. And it spoke to character. It wasn't, and a character moment like that, it could have taken 30 seconds. But it could have been really, really, really meaningful, because what Joss Whedon did in Ultron was great.
It was good. It was so good.